Welcome to Tarot with Trevor. Let's take a look at the next 6 months. So, on March 13th and 14th, depending upon where you are in the world, there's going to be a lunar eclipse. On March 29th, there'll be a solar eclipse. On September 7th and 8th, there'll be another lunar eclipse. And on September 21st, another solar eclipse. And often the time period between eclipses can have kind of a defining theme. So let's look into that. But in addition, there's another huge astrological event happening, and that is Saturn being joining with Neptune this summer. It's going to happen in 0 degrees of Aries, which has never happened in recorded history. The conjunction happened at 0 degrees in Aries. Now, when Saturn has conjuncted with Neptune in the past, we've had things like the fall of the Berlin Wall, the discovery of DNA, the potato famine, uh, the Spanish flu pandemic, and uh, other pretty big events, the fall of Constantinople, if you go way, way back. So it seems like this summer is going to be full of a bunch of fireworks. So what can we discern? Let's go month by month and kind of see. Now we'll go April through September, and we're just going to include this part of March with April. So most of the time I get my images clairvoyantly by scrying. This is a scrying bowl. Sometimes I'll see images in the water. I have a big crystal quartz ball in a spot that I meditate in. I put a candle behind it, and oftentimes I've shown images there. So let's just kind of see what we'll get. So I think we're going to see a continuation in March and into April of the chaos with the cryptocurrency market. I think it'll go up, it'll go down, it'll be highly volatile, more than normal. I think we'll also get more information on the Pope's health as well. He might be not sure if he's going to get out of the hospital and then be readmitted to the hospital, or if he never gets out of the hospital. But I see him being in the hospital for most of this time period. Okay, let's just see. What can you tell us about the events that we need to know for this last part of March into April? Can you tell us about the events we need to know? So I'm seeing the Five of Wands in the water. That's about conflict. I think we might see kind of a flare up in the Middle East. Perhaps that ceasefire doesn't hold. But on a more positive note, I think there might be a ceasefire in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Yeah, the first card we pull is death. So death can symbolize the end of something and the beginning of something. I think in this particular reading, what death is symbolizing is the end of an era. It's an end to the way things have been, and it's the start of something new. Also, astrologically, Pluto's going into Aquarius and it's going to stay there. That can also bring about something new. I mean, none of us were alive the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. So that energy of newness is going to happen. Now, that energy can be very scary. It can be very, anxiety provoking. As far as physical deaths, I think we could see a few of people on the world stage. The Pope comes to mind. I also think we need to maybe keep our eye out for a couple world leaders of some of the major countries that possibly might experience some health events or even even possibly some assassination attempts. The next card we get is the Six of Cups. This is about intergenerational relationships. There's going to be a lot of talk about what we need to do in the months of March and April to provide a better future for the next generation. How we are approaching the values that we have as a collective is going to change. There's going to be kind of a falling away of this greed mentality, or at least the greed mentality is going to start to be more demonized. Yeah, we get pausing, suspension, rethinking our perspective on the world in March and into April, really trying to grasp, this is the Hanged Man, really trying to grasp what it is that we want from life, what is the meaning of life, is also going to come into question for a lot of people. A lot of people have been through a lot of trauma the last few years, especially in the Middle East and Russia, Ukraine, but also Africa and other parts of the world that we don't often get mentioned in the news. So I think we're going to see kind of a reevaluation of our morals. And that's going to result in guardrails being put up. We get the Nine of Wands. There's going to be an attempt to start to put into place structures that secure people as they get older and secure people who are perhaps disabled, people who are marginalized. There's going to be a movement towards that. I'm not saying laws are going to be passed or that's going to happen. I'm going to say there's going to be pushback against the current status quo that's trying to roll back those things. So I think we'll start to see talk about putting up protections for people. We get the King of Cups. This is fluidity, adaptability, and consistency. I think we'll start to hear in April and March from influential people about issues that are really dear to them. And it's going to be along the lines of the things that guardrails that need to be put up. I have a feeling I got an image of Lady Gaga in the water. I think we might hear something from her in the next month, 2 months, about her taking on some sort of new cause. And we get the Queen of Cups to go along with the King of Cups. So just reaffirmation of that type of energy, that fluidity and adaptability, and finding leaders and influencers in new places. This is going to be a theme. People with no voices are going to start to have bigger voices as time progresses. This is partly an effect of social media, but this is also partly just an effect of the astrological events. The little people are going to rise, so to speak. It won't just be the leaders that we hear from. In fact, I think there might be a movement in March and April to kind of start to ignore some of the world leaders. And we get the Six of Wands. This is about victory. This is a win for humanity, this changing time period. Now, I'm not saying we're going to feel it right away because we're not. It's going to take time. But in 10 years or so, when we look back, we'll think, oh, yeah, March, April, June, July, through maybe September of 2025, that was really the time period where humanity reclaimed what it means to be human and really started to aspire to be more giving, more thoughtful. But in order for that to happen, we get the Tower card. Structures are going to have to come down. Things are going to have to be destroyed before they can be rebuilt. And this is going to be the scary part about it. Now, I don't think anything personally scary is going to happen. For individuals, I do think we're going to see the standard, I think we'll probably see, some earthquakes and possibly some volcanic activity in the spring of this year. But I don't think that's what this card is about. This card is about tearing down structures, political structures, and tearing down belief systems that no longer serve us. I think we'll see a movement towards spirituality and away from religion, for example, as one aspect. In certain countries, this might not be the case everywhere. I think we'll also see kind of a return to this idea of being at one with the earth. More people getting into meditation and yoga. And it's almost like they have to because it's a necessity, because the stress of the moment is so much that as these structures come down, humanity rebuilds itself in a victorious way. And this is all going to start in March and into April. And we get the Page of Pentacles. This is something coming forward about the world economy. Now, I think we're going to see a downturn in the economy. I think that's just the way it is. The economy is on some shaky footing. So, not financial advice, just a little bit of a warning. So in March and April, I think we might see a downturn in the economy, perhaps the death of a prominent figure as well. Could be a world leader, could be the Pope, could be another big religious leader as well. Okay, so as we get into the month of then May, what can we expect? What can we expect in the month of May? Seeing, this isn't meant to scare, but I'm seeing empty shelves in the stores. I think if one can afford to, it might be a reasonable thing to stock up on non-perishable goods. I don't think this is going to last more than a month, maybe two. But I think we'll see some shortages and, of various items, food related mostly. Also getting the image of the Seven of Swords. So this could be about deceit. So in the month of May, be careful about what you hear on whether it's true or not is going to be of question. What do we need to know for the month of May as a collective? We get the King of Swords. This is kind of a return to logic. A hope for steadiness. It's a hope, though. It's not there. We're hoping the world starts to become steady, starts to act logically. I don't know that the world leaders are going to follow suit. And that's part of that tower energy from the previous month of tearing down these structures that aren't suiting us. There's going to be a feeling of apathy. There's also going to be a feeling of almost, how to say, what's the word? When somebody gives you something, but it's not good for you, but they're trying to convince you it's good for you. We're going to see that going on as well. For example, there might be some political events that are being sold as being huge progress, but the truth is they're not, and we're going to know they're not. So There's also going to be a more of a movement away from group mentality thinking and more towards individual thinking. And this will start sometime in May. Why is that going to happen? It's going to happen because it's almost like this is going to be a period of enlightenment, a period where we kind of start to see things for as they are, as they're supposed to be, is a different story. We're going to see them as they are, but we're going to want them to be as we want them to be. And that's going to take work. But again, this is all about that tower energy, which I think is kind of the defining point of these eclipses, of tearing down structures that aren't working for us, whether that be political systems, whether that be religious systems, whether that even be certain social media apps that are taking advantage of their members. We're also going to get a new way of thinking about money and wealth in particular. Maybe not so much money, but wealth. What does it mean to be wealthy? That's going to change in the coming years in particular, but it's going to start now. For example, this is perhaps a bit trite, but a jar of peanut butter has value. That value of the jar of peanut butter, provided it's good, never changes. It's a jar of peanut butter. Friendships have value. Provided the friendships are good, the value maintains. Money, on the other hand, is kind of a symbol of value. And I think we're going to start to break down that social construct of thinking about things in terms of our bank accounts and rather think about things in terms of our security. How secure are we with our food security? How secure are we as in feeling safe? These are going to become more valuable in our minds than the sum in our bank accounts. Because it's a really turning point for history. We're at a crossroads. Things are really going to shift. Like I say, it might take 10 years and then retrospectively looking at it to realize it happened, but it's happening. We're standing at this crossroads with the Two of Wands, and we're ready to make choices. And the choices are going to be different. We're ready to forge a new path forward. There's a lot of hope in the 6-month period. That does not mean that the 6-month period is going to be easy to live through. So do take care of yourself during this time. We get the Queen of Pentacles. Again, this is a card that represents leadership around money, but also it's like a nurturing relationship with money, knowing the importance of money, such as, if you have $10 and you have to feed yourself for a week, knowing how to do that. That's the energy that is there. We're going to start to think smarter about our spending habits. And it's going to be out of necessity, which is a little bit scary, but it will all kind of level out. And the economy, world economy, it's not going to tank. It's not going to fall completely apart. Nothing like that's going to happen. But there's going to be a different vantage point about how much our political leaders affect our ability to feel secure with the Ace of Pentacles and also affect our ability to take care of our families. Now, that could be in various forms. It could be around money. It could be around food security. It could also be around daycare, school systems, education, so forth. We get the world card. This is going to affect the entire world. And it's an end of a cycle. The world card in the tarot represents an end of a cycle, like a major end of a cycle. It's this ending of the way the current thinking that dominates, in particular, the news cycle, that way of thinking is going to come to an end. We're going to start to aspire to hear new stories that are positive and upbeat. We're going to aspire to get out of this doom and gloom scenario, which is what we've kind of been living through. Everything has become really dark, and it's going to stop. And if you're, you know, under the age of 25 in particular, you might not remember a period of time where we weren't under this veil of darkness. Now, if you're older than that, you probably do. You probably remember, you know, the way it had been, like children playing and with one another, and there not being such concerns about safety. That's what's going to come to an end. That darkness, that fear. That doesn't mean things aren't going to continue to happen that are bad. It just means that it's slowly coming to an end. It's going to take a while, but it's going to happen. But it's going to start in this Mayish time frame. We're going to really probably have a serious conversation around the safety of children in May. I think something big, a big story might come out in May that makes us really think about the safety of children. But ultimately, we get the Six of Swords, which means we're heading away from the trouble. We're moving in the right direction. And that's important to know because this time period will be scary. But we're strong. We will survive. And we'll be better for it. And we will still have time to make memories and enjoy life. It's not like every day is going to be, completely awful. Please try not to let it. Um, there will be moments of happiness that remind us that we are who we are as a being. We're just going through something as a species. It's not an individual change. It's a change for the humanity is what we're going through. And that's why it seems so intense for a lot of us. If it's not intense for you, that's absolutely fine. Underneath, again, we have the Queen of Cups, this like return to being in control of our emotions, this wanting to things to not be like such on a pendulum. We don't want the big swings anymore. Humanity's going to change in that sense. There's going to be better communications between countries as well, I think. Moving forward, not starting in May, but moving forward in a few years. Okay, in June, what can you tell us about June, please? I'm getting the image of the Hierophant. So the Hierophant can be about government, can be about courts, can be about higher education, but it's also a symbol of the Pope or the church. I think there might be some major changes to religious structures in June. They will be for the better, but they might not seem that way in the beginning. That's what I'm getting. You tell us about June. Also seeing that there might be some huge scandal around cryptocurrency. So whether you're invested in cryptocurrency or not, I'm not giving financial advice. I think we might see more theft of cryptocurrency, which creates chaos. And I think this is going to be around the June time. We get bombshells and surprises in June. Things are going to take us by surprise. Either they take us by surprise by how good they are, or it's just something shocking that happens. I don't think it's anything particularly bad. I just think it's something shocking. We get the Chariot card. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because I don't think that it's productive, but I think this is where there's a change in the attitude of how we think about safety around children. I think that is going to happen in June. I think there's going to be something that comes out in June that is going to be heartbreaking. And it's going to really make us change the way we think about safety of children. And the Chariot card is going to allow us to move forward and move forward intelligently so that we can protect the next generation. Because ultimately, that's kind of one of the big overall themes, is making life better for the next generation. We get the Nine of Pentacles. We kind of realize we already have everything we need. You know, we don't really need that new baby grand piano in our foyer to show off to friends when we throw dinner parties. Really, what we need is food security, shelter, and to be safe physically. And that's going to be kind of the new alignment about what is valuable in the world. And that's what the Nine of Pentacles is telling us in June. We get the Magician card. This will be a great time to manifest in June. Anything's kind of possible on an individual level. If you want more money, you probably have the ability to make that happen. If you want more security, you probably have the ability to make that happen as well. We can talk about that at a different time on this channel. But this will be a time where lots of things are possible, and there's just going to be a huge reevaluation of what is valuable. We get the Eight of Swords. This is restriction, confinement, but it's a mental confinement. It's usually an entrapment of our own making. So we might feel, especially after an event that really makes us rethink safety, we might feel like we need to stay in our homes and take care of ourselves, which we do. And by all means do that if that's the way you feel. But it might be the case that there's like a collective fear that's a little out of proportion. Like the reaction might be a little out of proportion, and people might feel like they're confined and that they're not free to do things because out of fear. But I think it's an overreaction by the collective. So we'll watch out for that in June. We'll take a closer look as we get closer to that. We get the Ten of Swords. This is the death of a world leader, I think. And it's going to be looked upon gleefully. I'll just leave it at that. The Ten of Swords represents complete and utter downfall. It'll be the end of a very dark cycle caused by one individual. That's what I'm seeing. And this is June. Here's the Emperor card, and I think this goes along with that. The Emperor is a leader of the country. Usually this card usually represents abuse of power. So that living under this abusive system comes to an end. But it doesn't come to an end easily. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to cause concerns about security. We're going to feel like we're just juggling a lot. I think that there's a lot on humanity's plate in June. Lots of decisions need to be made. A lot of people might be thinking about leaving the country that they're living in and wanting to go to a different country. There might be some concerns about overseas travel as well. I can see that in June. I also get this feeling, and I don't know that this happens in June, but I have seen that I think there's going to be an oil spill that really also changes the way humanity thinks about fossil fuels. Like it's a really big wake-up call into the devastation that fossil fuels can create just from extracting them from the ground. Whether that happens in June, I'm not sure, but I think it happens sometime in 2025. And we get strength again. We're going to be reminded that even though times are tough, we will get through this. And that doesn't mean we can't have happy moments. It doesn't mean we can't have joyous moments. It doesn't mean that 5 years from now, when we look back at 2025, we think, yeah, that was all bad, because we won't. We'll look back and we'll remember weddings, graduations. Graduations in particular come to mind in June, as do weddings. We'll remember those with joy. So June is certainly not. June is going to change things. Like June is going to be a big shakeup, and that conjunction is really close to exact in June. Underneath, we get the Two of Wands again. So being at this crossroads, humanity's at a crossroads. So moving on to July. Can you show us about July? Can you show us about July? Can you show us about July? I think there's going to be a lot of talk about education in July, about what we want education to be, how it should serve the students, and how it should serve the country and the world as well. I think there'll also be a return, perhaps in a slightly different way. I see this, I'm seeing paintings in the water. I don't know if we're going to get some news about, some very expensive paintings, maybe possibly trying to be stolen or being damaged. But I think the bigger thing that I'm getting is that we're going to start to redefine what art and culture is, and not be limited to what the textbooks teach us is fine art. For example, I think, we might start to see pictures of graffiti being displayed in museums more prominently, things along those lines. I do think there's going to be some problem with air travel in July. I don't think it's a plane crash. I think it's just a lot of delays. Perhaps some routes get canceled because the money's not there to support them, which creates more problems about us being able to go around as we so see. We get the Hermit card. So this could be isolation, being alone. It also can be shedding the light on something as well. I think for a lot of us, June, I'm just going to take a drink. June is going to be so chaotic that in July, we might want that rest. So July might be a time to take out time for yourself in your small group of family or friends, the people that you hold the most dear. I can see a lot of people doing vacations, but they're more like staycations. It's more like your best friends are gonna that are maybe live a ways away are gonna come and spend a week, or you're gonna do that, rather than everybody getting together and going somewhere else, or your individual collective going somewhere else. It's like we're going to feel this need to be reconnected to people in our past. And that's partly because there's a lot of a feeling of just complete heartache over the events that happens. Um, it's not going to be one particular event. It's going to just be a series of things, whether it's even directly affecting you or not. It might just be the feeling of being overwhelmed by the stories of people struggling with money, the stories of people struggling with food, the stories of crimes being committed against individuals or humanity. It's going to be this feeling of anguish, but it's ultimately this feeling of anguish that helps guide that Six of Swords energy from earlier. I mean, not Six of Swords, that Six of Wands energy of leading us down a path to better humanity. There's going to be a portion of the population, and it doesn't matter whether you're in this portion or you're not, it really is irrelevant. But there's going to be a portion of the population that is going to want to stick to kind of an illusionary thought of where the world is going. Like we're still going to be very much in two different realities. We kind of already are in two different realities now, where, you know, it almost is dependent upon your worldview on whether you're friends with each other. It's going to be, it's going to continue. We're not going to agree on the same set of facts still, but that's going to come to an end. It's starting to here. And that's what the Seven of Cups is representing. This is the card that I saw in the water when we opened the reading, was the Five of Wands. There's going to be a lot of arguing back and forth about the way we proceed forward. But remember, out of debate comes better ways forward. Debate causes thoughts to happen and leads to better results. So, you know, not agreeing on a way forward can actually be a good thing. After discussion and lively debate back and forward, maybe there's a kind of a coming together of how we proceed as humanity. We get the Six of Wands again. I think this just, you know, the spirit's affirmation of that's what this time period is about, is it's ultimately leading to this feeling of victory, this reclaiming of humanity, this like having faith in our fellow man again. We get the Ace of Pentacles again, rethinking the value system, just kind of reinforcing that energy that we originally got at the beginning of the 6 months. I forget, I think this was in April, the Ace of Pentacles. We're going to have like a revisit of that. Again, kind of just redefining, what do we hold valuable? Is it the cash in our bank accounts? Is it the food in our pantry? Is it our friends and our family? Is it our safety? It's going to just take on a different tenor this summer. Again, just this is just confirming the other months. The Queen of Pentacles, that motherly kind of figure of knowing how to spend money correctly in order to get the most out of it. There's going to be a lot of budgeting, whether out of necessity or out of fear. That's just going to be the way the summer is going to go. But ultimately, we're going to get reminded again with the Nine of Pentacles. These are almost all the same cards from the last month. We're going to get reminded again that we have everything that we need. What we need is food, security, and safety. I guess security and safety are kind of the same thing. And it's going to be like a redefining moment of, what do we really need? Do we have what we need? Do we need the next iPhone to be happy? You know, it's going to be like those type of discussions, which I think can cause conflict as well. And then ultimately we get some big truth revealed in July. I think the truth might have to deal with how people in power, not necessarily political leaders, but the super ultra rich, have been manipulating people, whether it's through social media or whether it's through various other things. I think there's going to be a truth revealed that's going to make us look at some of these really rich people differently. Because ultimately, what's it about? It's about families coming together, being united, being happy, watching your children grow up, your grandchildren grow up. That's ultimately what this time period is about. So, again, it's not going to be easy, but there's a greater good that's going to come from it. Okay, so August. Do we need to know for August? To know for August. I don't necessarily see an image, but the water feels like you should be skeptical of it. Like you don't want to put your foot into it. Reminds me of like some of the documentaries about animals. Like, is there a crocodile in the water? I think we might have that kind of feeling as we head into August. Like we're okay proceeding, but we're doing it very cautiously. And again, that doesn't mean that there aren't happy moments. It just means the overall theme is one of being kind of guarded, keeping ourselves emotionally safe. What do we need to know about August? There's going to be some sort of choice here. Um, we might have to get ready to, I think there's an election in Canada in October. There might be an election in Australia coming up. I don't think it's been called yet, but I think it will. I think there's going to be some choices made. A lot of um, concern around choosing of political leaders is what I'm feeling. I don't know. And again, we're reminded once again that as individuals and as groups, we have strength in numbers. We have the ability to forge change. We have the ability to make things the way we want them. We just have to do it. And that might be just as simple as not spending money somewhere. It really might be just that simple. There's something behind the scenes that we can't see with the high priestess. Something going on that we're unaware of in August that it's going to come to light later. I think it might have to do again with like rich and powerful people kind of treating people like pieces on the chessboard, like we're the commodity. When social media came about, people started selling these companies started selling people's information for money. And that's when we started to be treated like pieces on a chessboard. I think there's going to be more revelations about that coming forward. I think August is also going to be a time when people really want to put down roots. The Seven of Pentacles, people really are going to want to like get that home security feel. That doesn't mean buying a house or necessarily even renting a new apartment or anything like that. What it means is that we're thinking ahead about how we want the rest of our lives to go. Like it's almost like a planning of the way we want things to be, and realizing perhaps if you've been rather nomadic, if you've been moving to and fro for different jobs or various things, maybe that's not what you want anymore. Maybe you want to settle down, so to speak. There's still a lot of anxiety. We're approaching the new eclipses in September now because this is August. So we might have some disruptions to sleep. If you're having disruptions to sleep right now, that's perfectly normal during the eclipse season. So And also that kind of, I don't know if you ever wake up and you just have that like kind of pit in your stomach, like, oh, I wonder if something bad's going to happen today. That might return, but just know that's just anxiety. And anxiety just lies to you. That's all it does. It's that doesn't mean that it's easy to deal with or it's easy to make it go away or you should dismiss it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, just be aware that your anxiety can lie to you. We get the Empress. Again, I think there's going to be a return to discussing what's best for the next generation, what's um, that motherly type energy is going to be prevalent in regards to our discussions about safety and what we want for children. I think that's going to be very prevalent in August as we head towards the next eclipse. We get death again. I think this is another physical death of another world leader, perhaps a religious leader as well. I think there's going to be two or three of them that happen during this time period. Um, this also could maybe be a member of the royal family in various countries. Um, this death, though, feels like it might be mournful. Like it's not somebody that people are going to be happy died. Now, there are people that are going to be sad every time somebody dies, but there are some figures that people just don't like. And so when they die, you know, people might feel a sense of relief. Not maybe not joy, but a sense of relief. This one feels mournful. This could be the Pope, for example. Um, could be King Charles, maybe something along those lines. Again, I could be right, I could be wrong. We get the Two of Cups, new partnerships forming in an emotional way. I think there might actually be kind of more of a push for things like suicide hotlines, more of a push for programs or not programs, campaigns. Like there's a campaign that started last year called Just Ask, where, contact your friends and just ask them how they're doing. I think there might be a push for something along these lines. Like there's going to be a greater concern about mental health or more of an awareness about mental health. And we get that Eight of Swords again. We're going to return to that feeling of like, oh man, I just want to stay inside. I don't really want to go to work, but I have to. That kind of anxious pit in your stomach, but just know that it's in your mind. It's not in reality. That doesn't make it any less real, by the way. Things that are in your mind can be absolutely real in the sense of how they feel. So, but we're going to have that mental sort of feeling like we need to stay in because we don't feel safe. And again, we get that motherly energy around money with the Queen of Pentacles. It's like going to be, you know, I don't necessarily think there's going to be more women in power or anything like that, but that female type of energy is going to be more sought after. And males can express this female type energy as well, because it's just an energy type. It's a nurturing type of energy that I think is going to become uh, very desirable. I think, yeah, for September, let's use. So this deck is called the Unveiled deck. So it's kind of got two different images going on in each picture that somewhat contradict each other. So what do we need to know for the month of December? And then we'll pull some energy cards out to kind of guide us as well. What do we need to know for the month of December? I'm sorry, September, not December. Well, I wonder why I said December. Something's gonna happen in December. I think I said December just because I was getting that kind of nurturing kind of family setting by the fireplace. holiday season. There's going to be that desire. That's going to be the desired energy. Whether we get it or not, it's a different story. Do we need to know for September? I think the economy starts to improve. I think the financial situation starts to get better. I think the food insecurity goes away. I think weather patterns um, are starting to produce better crops in like this equatorial or equator growing places. Um, you know, we're going to see skyrocketing prices for some things like olive oil and coffee, for example. I think that's just going to happen. But I think that's going to start to improve in September, particularly around coffee. I don't know why I said that, but that's what I got. So we get this mob mentality. So the mob card, this is unique to this deck. But the person in the middle doesn't want to be part of the mob anymore. He doesn't want to be angry anymore. So this like mob mentality of being angry, marching with torches, it's going to go away. And as we go into the next eclipse, it's really going to come to it's going to become unacceptable again. People are going to have choices. And here we're literally depicted, the Two of Swords is literally depicted as a piece on a chessboard, which I said earlier, which is interesting. We're going to have choices. And the choice that we're going to have is we're going to get this revelation where we realize we're kind of, as groups, being mass manipulated, whether that's mass manipulated into buying the next iPhone or whatever it is. And I'm not saying it's bad if you buy an iPhone. Don't misjudge or misunderstand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we're going to be more aware of that. We're just going to be more aware of the mob mentality, this mass buying structure of, oh, we all need the next biggest thing. Yeah, we're going to, again, the Ace of Pentacles again. Value is going to take on a different meaning. Uh, Again, whether the value is going to be the number in your bank account, or it's going to be the items you possess, or it's going to be your security, your living space. I see this isn't for everybody, but I see somebody just going around and watering a bunch of plants in their house. Maybe it's about that, about having a feeling of a serene environment. Maybe that's what we value. We get the Ten of Wands. This is about heavy burdens, but it's coming to an end. And again, the depiction of this card is it's the ants marching one by one, right? They're all doing the same thing. And the one ant just feels overwhelmingly burdened because he doesn't want to do it anymore. People are going to break away and start to regain an individual sense of themselves. Not that we've lost it, but perhaps maybe in the way we purchase things or in the way we hold opinions on certain topics. Perhaps we haven't really thought about them individually, but more going along with what we've read or we've been told. And then we get the star protection. Things really start to turn around in September. Things become very hopeful. You can also see some people just laying out in their backyard looking at the stars. Um, that type of yeah, I see it's like a young family, a father, a mother, and two kids laying and looking at the stars. It's like that's what's going to be important again. Those moments are going to take precedent. And we get temperance, like this return to moderation, right? This almost harmonious feel like things were meant to be. Things are really going to turn around in September. We get the Ten of Cups, reunion celebration. Here's the family, the mother, the father, and the two kids. Here's the Hierophant. This might be the month that the Pope dies. It just might be. It also might be the time that we rethink our spirituality as well. Um, both things can happen, or one or the other. And we get this the Seven of Pentacles. The cogs are turning about planting seeds about what we really want out of life. Things are really going to start to improve in September. Underneath, we have the Nine of Pentacles. Again, just reminding us that we have everything that we need. It's already there. Okay, let's pull some oracle cards to finish this reading out. So this is the Animal Oracle deck, or the Spirit Animal Oracle deck by, I think it's Baron Reed, Colette Baron Reed. I think that's right. Give us just a few cards to tell us what we should be thinking about over these next 6 months on an individual level. Now, the animals on these cards might have specific meanings to you. Take them if they do. If they don't, just let it be. Let's pull 5 cards. Let's do it this way. We get the Deer Spirit. Be a gentle touch. I think this is supposed to remind us that we're all human. We are all flawed. Yeah, we are all flawed. So let's just be nice to one another. Maybe this is like a reminder that, we don't like it when people yell at us. Maybe we shouldn't yell at people. I'm not saying that you're going around yelling at people, but it's just kind of the energy of this card is kind of like, let's just be gentle to one another, hold the door in the grocery store, make sure you're not blocking the aisles with your cart. That kind of imagery is what's coming to me with that card. So be gentle to the touch. The Badger Spirit, be fearless and bold. Don't be afraid to go after what you want. And don't be afraid during the times that might be a little bit dark during the 6 months. It's okay to be if you are. It's not a judgment. It's an energy that's telling you it's okay to be fearless, even if it goes kind of against your grain. Now, obviously, protect yourself above all else, you and your family. We get the Otter Spirit. You are never alone. So just know we're in this together. And that is what this 6 month period is going to be defined by, is about the rejoining of community that has been lost. We get the Eagle Spirit. Spirit has your back. The universe is going to unfold the way the universe is going to unfold. We get a choice in it, but on the big scheme of things, the big grand scheme of things, the universe unfolds the way the universe unfolds. And know that that is going to be the correct thing happening. So don't fret over things that are out of your control. That's what I feel the Eagle Spirit is about. See them, acknowledge them, validate your feelings. The Wolf Spirit, turn knowledge into wisdom. Sharing your experience with others. I think, again, there's going to be a real emphasis on mental health towards the later part of these 6 months. And that's what this is about sharing our experiences with each other and turning that knowledge of what we've gone through into wisdom to help people that haven't gone through it yet or are going through it now. All right. Thank you very much for listening. I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. Thank you.